Welcome back, fans. Rip City Clothing Company at Moda Center is your one-stop shop for Trailblazers gear. Rip City Clothing Company is open Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And if you can't make it to the store, you can always shop online at ripcityclothing.co. Welcome back into our Moda Center studios. Jordan Kent alongside Michael Holton. And we are now joined by Brooke Olzendam, our sideline reporter. So much more than that. We'll get to more of the things that she covers. And a man that needs no introduction, our radio play-by-play specialist, Brian Wheeler. And Wheels, let's get rolling with you. Your thoughts on the Blazers this season, because nobody covers the team like you or has more words to say about the team and their action. And so your thoughts as you sort of recap and rethink this season.
Before I start talking about the team, I was thinking when everybody was here assembled for the first time since the season ended that I have one great regret about this season. You know, technically, even though Kevin Glabro is the most experienced of all of us, he was a rookie this season. So was Lamar Hurd. So was Brooke Olzendam. No, not once did I ask one of them to carry my bag. And my only saving grace is that when Chris Kaman was here, and maybe this is a technicality or it's a subjective definition, but he claimed that a rookie was still a rookie until the first game of the next season. So maybe I haven't lost my opportunity to do that. But I really did not. I would never ask Brooke. But with those other two, I mean, I'm very disappointed that I let them off the hook, at least so far.
I'm kind of disappointed in that too.
Well, we've got a golf tournament coming up. You can have them carry your bag for that.
That would have some impact right there, I think so.
Good luck with that, Wills.
I don't see Calabro being too down with that. Lamar.
Spoken like a man who's been in a team environment before. Might not have. I've known Calabro for a lot of years. I might have to try Lamar because he might be a little naive about whether or not he might think he has to do it. I mean,
sure,
I
think so.
Might be able to fool him. I might have to say, hey, you know, Jeff Curtin, our director of broadcasting, said this is a tradition that needs to be, you know, continued. So, and he might really, and then, so maybe I can convince him because you know he's not that he isn't smart, but he's so innocent and nice. And
yes.
He wants to, and he trusts me. So that's the problem too.
I think you can pull it off if you get him away. You know, because you got to get him away from the pack, right?
Oh yeah, no.
Because you've never consumed a banana that was still connected to the bunch, right? So you got to get him. You got to get him to the side, and you got to say, "Let me holler at you, Lamar." There was a part of your development and orientation
before I let you go. Before I let you go,
just
let me
as he
holler
trusts
at
you with clothes. I mean, I'm only doing this for your own good, Lamar.
Sure.
You got to make it sound like you're trying to help him. There was something missed.
It was a good first season, but this is one way to put a capper on it.
Absolutely.
Really do a good job.
Absolutely. So anyway, their first season was a season the Blazers find themselves going 41-41. They make the playoffs. And from your perspective, Wheels, and of all the years of basketball you've seen, what was your biggest takeaway this year from the team?
Well, you know, what was interesting is that up until that stretch, the early part of March, I mean, I think we were all saying, you know, how do we feel good about what's happened? What's the stretch run going to look like? There were some folks, you know, throwing out that tanking word and so forth, and I never thought the team would go for that, but you wondered what would be the takeaway from this season. And then all of a sudden that guy Nurkic showed up, and everything changed. There was just a breath of fresh air. It was exciting to watch the team. It was exciting to watch the development. He was perfect for the team. The team was perfect for him. It was a great symbiotic relationship. So from that standpoint, it really salvaged everything and put a nice capper on the season, and also gave you one more piece to go forward with, and also to look forward to an off season now where there are so many things that can help form the roster for next season with the draft choices, and with Neil being as skilled as he is at creatively putting the roster together. So it kind of left everybody, I think, with a very positive feeling about the season. So it just showed you that 1/3 of a season that's positive, if you have it at the right time, can really affect your opinion of how everything went.
And Brooke, Michael and I had a great time getting a chance to see everything that you were doing. It wasn't just the sideline reporting. It was interviews with Coach. It was the web specials, catching up with the players on the road. Of everything you got a chance to experience this year, what were some of the things that meant the most to you this season?
You know what? I got to say, well, first of all, it was always fun to do Pick to Click with you guys.
Well, thank you.
Always a laugh in there or two. Love that you already threw fruit out. I was going to get to that. You've already talked about bananas, you and your trees. But that was always fun to start the night because you got loose. You know, for me, I mean, you guys had already been on the air for a little while. That kind of got me ready for the night. And then prior to that, though, I always did the interview with Coach Stotts. And that ended up being one of my favorite parts of the year because he kept me guessing. He was always having fun with me, laughing. He was so much fun to not just talk to, but he would always give it back to me. And I thought that was really very kind of him to do with my first season. The relationship that we had, I really valued that. So the interaction between Coach Stotts and I was one of my favorite parts of the whole year.
Now, there was one moment where we remember that, did you lose lose a bunch of items on the road, and they
goodness.
recovered them for you. Can you shed some light on that story for us?
Yes, that's a perfect example. So I can always tell when he's got something up his sleeve when we start an interview, because he kind of looks like he's got hiding something and he's going to give it to me later. I'm like, here we go. What's going to happen now? At the end of the interview, I'm like, thanks, and I'm going to send it back to you guys. Thanks, coach, or back to you. And he goes, no, wait, hold on. I have a delivery for you. I'm like, oh my goodness, what is this going to be? And the night before, it was the second of a back-to-back. The night before, I had gone through my wallet and cleaned out all my old cards. And like, I doubt Blockbuster was in there, but it's one of those things, going through, like, I don't need this anymore. And I left them on the nightstand. And I still don't know who did this, but they were given to someone. I think it might have been Jeff Clark, our trainer. I still haven't gotten to the bottom of it. Somehow Coach Stotts found out about it, had them in his pocket in an envelope, and said, you left these cards in the hotel room last night. And I was dying laughing. I'm like, of course, thanks, Coach. Thanks for returning them to me live on air. That was just one of many, many funny things. And then, of course, that time he was joking behind me. I always stand with my legs crossed. That's just kind of my thing whenever I'm doing looking at the camera doing a sideline report. And people caught it on air. He was standing behind me trying to stand like I was, and the most perplexed face, and that blew up on the internet too. So he's hilarious. I love him.
Well, the two of you do such terrific work with every broadcast. And Wheels, you're oftentimes away from Michael and I when you're doing your preparation, and Brooke, you're normally down here trying to prepare. I'm usually cracking jokes with our producer, Nick
Lines from The Office is what
right.
we usually do.
But share with us both your preparations for each game and kind of what goes into it as you get ready for your work.
Well, the nice thing is after 19 years of doing it, and then years before that doing it on the college level, you kind of get into a routine. You're always looking to tweak it, and then somebody comes up with an idea maybe about how to do it a little better and so forth. And I used to do a lot of things by hand in terms of putting my scorecard together. Now there's at least a computer program that makes it simpler. But I always say to myself that I want to have enough information that I always say, if a basket got torn down by somebody with a massive dunk, do I have enough information that could keep people maybe still listening during the 20-minute delay that it would take to get a new basket out there? And of course, the mere chance of this happening with breakaway rims is probably pretty remote at this point in time. But if it ever happens one day, you can say to yourself, now he's prepared. I mean, he has thought about this and he has everything. So, and I always like thinking that by the end of the night, I've left some things on the table. Not necessarily important things, but that if I had to go to more things, I would be prepared. And so, and I still remember back doing a women's high school championship game in Illinois, and it got to the last shot, and so a girl hit the shot to win the game for the state championship for her team, and I actually was able to look down and say, and that was the first three-point shot of her career, and because I'd done enough prep work to, and again, because she had never taken a three-point shot, you wouldn't necessarily think that she would, but the fact that I actually had put that down, that was one night I said, there was a reward for your preparation. So you always hope that you have more than you need, but something always comes up, and you're not necessarily sure that it will. But if you can prepare for most eventualities, then you feel pretty good about going into the contest. Just like players and coaches, if they feel they go into the game prepared, then at least they think they have a good chance to win.
Wills, I know your bucket is never empty. Before I came into this business, I bumped into Wills at a local car dealership. He was just waiting on his car to get serviced. And really scared me almost out of ever thinking about this business because he had so much information in front of him that and it was a couple of days before the game. But anyway, I digress. We all have processes of preparing for games, and we all have in-game jobs that we do. What is your process of transitioning from game to game or decompressing after a game in terms of what you want to keep and what you focus on between games?
Well, I'm probably a bad person to ask about that because I'm not a good loser. And I tend to think, and it's one of these things where you have to understand that your main role is to keep people listening, watching, so forth. And so that's always my greatest challenge. If the game's not going well, what can you do to keep people? And I've had many people say, if I'm in my car and I turn it on, it's mid game, I can tell by maybe the inflection of your voice how the game's going. And if you sound happy, then probably we're doing things well. And so I blame it on the team, basically, is what it comes down to. If the team does things well, then we never have to worry about this kind of stuff. But I think I ride the emotions. So we talked about the season being a roller coaster. So I ride the emotions of how things go. But I always try to understand my main job still is to make sure people are listening regardless of what happens. And this year was different. I mean, it's the first time in all my years of broadcasting that I essentially worked by myself, with the exception of a couple of times that I worked with Coach Holton, and we had Brian Grant sit in for a few games, and Casey sat in for a few games. So I'd say maybe a third of the time I had somebody with me, and I'd been used to always having somebody with me. So it was different because, you know, I'm a funny guy, and not to have somebody next to me that can laugh was difficult. You know, I mean, I was telling jokes and I didn't know if they were funny. There was nobody around to laugh. So,
you needed an audience.
And I was doing preparation, nobody there to say, that's a good point you just made. I mean, I got to tell myself that during timeouts. And now then people are seeing me talk to myself. So it was very odd. So it was different. So preparation when you're doing a game by yourself is, I think, a little more challenging because you in some ways have to kind of have the role of two people, and it's not, and you don't have somebody to play off of per se. So this year was a little bit more involved in that respect.
Okay, be careful with that talking to yourself conversation when you start answering.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's there's an old World Series tape in 1974, the Dodgers and the A's, and they mic'd Tommy Lasorda when he was the third base coach, and Ron Luciano was the umpire, and Luciano yelled at him at one point, said, "Will you stop talking to yourself?" And he says, "When I start answering myself, Ron, then you got to worry." So still talking to yourself, I think is okay. It's the second part that might be a problem.
All right, well, sit tight. We'll have more talk back with Brian Wheeler, Brooke Olzendam when we come back on this edition of Trailblazers Courtside. Joined by Brian Wheeler and Brooke Olzendam. And Brooke, I want to get from your perspective some of the things you experience and take in during an NBA game that we don't necessarily capture during the broadcast, because you're not only there on the court with the players, but the fans and the atmosphere. And what are some interesting things that you observe and see throughout the season that people should be aware of?
Well, one of my favorite things is just because, you know, where I sit in the little hallway there, it's right at the end of the Blazers bench. So I like getting there early and watching the interaction between the fans, most of them kids, but they're, you know, the ages range. And I love the fact, and I've talked about it numerous times, and you guys all know just how great the team is with their fans, including Damian Lillard, who's out on the floor probably longer than any other player. He gets out there about 30 minutes before he even warms up and is chatting on the bench with, you know, other coaches, other players, and then will take so much time after he's done warming up to sign everything. And they have like hats to put their arm out. I mean, he signs everything, and all the players do. So I really kind of just like sitting back and watching that. I think it's so fulfilling for those fans that come early. All they want to do is just maybe get eye contact with one of the players, and the guys sign everything, and they talk to them, they take pictures. So that's always something I really like watching. During the game, what I like to try to do is to share with the audience what they don't see when they're watching a game from home on TV. And lots of those are stories in the huddle, you know, guys going back and forth. I know Kevin Lamar, we're talking about Shabazz Napier and what a great guy he is on the floor, but off the floor, even when he's not playing, when he's not getting minutes, he is really a coach on the sideline, always talking to Damian, CJ, anyone really, just kind of sharing what he's seen and how they can maybe do something differently. And the guys are really good about that, talking to each other and saying, maybe you didn't see this. It's always in a constructive manner. So I really like watching those guys go back and forth. And then, of course, the huddle updates with Coach. You know, some of them this season where he's a little heated, you know, and he doesn't really get that way. He's very even-keeled, but after a couple of defensive breakdowns, you know, it was an interesting, colorful huddle. I've always liked to, I always like to report on those and pick and choose my words. That's where I earn my money. But it's fun to be down there and just kind of see the the minglings, the goings-on that you don't see if you're just watching the game from home.
It's interesting because earlier today we heard the Golden State Warriors almost complain about having to go to Utah for their series against them. I'm not going to ask you guys what your least favorite stop was, but when you look at all the places you've traveled this season and also in previous seasons you've worked, do you have a favorite spot or a favorite place to go to? And likewise, being a big foodie that you are also, Brooke, is there a particular place that you know, yeah, we got this circled, I can't wait to go there?
Well, I won't retell my story of my favorite barbecue in a gas station. that one's run its course. But I do love going to San Francisco, which we were at a lot this season. It somewhat felt like a second home there for a while. In season, we were there for longer periods of time than we normally would be. And then, of course, the postseason. San Francisco, I love going to Chinatown, getting food there. They just have fantastic restaurants. New York, I love going to just because it's New York. There really is an energy in the air. Those two are probably my favorite places. I always just like going to a place where I have a friend that I grew up with that happened to move to Boston. I get to see her there. Those are the times when you're on the road and, you know, you're kind of getting homesick, and then you kind of take advantage of those cities that you have a friend that, you know, you get to catch up with that you normally wouldn't get a chance to, you know, show up in Boston and take them to dinner. So those are always fun stops for me too.
Yeah, now, if we were doing a podcast or we were a social establishment tipping a few, I could tell you some Kevin Calabro stories from the mid-'90s when the two of us were together in Seattle. And he's right about one thing. I mean, that in general, this group's a little boring in terms of social functions. And we went to comedy clubs. We tried to get some events, but I think KC, I got to talk to him in the off season, because this isn't the KC I remember. I mean, this KC back in his younger days was as every bit as good as he is on the air still, but afterwards, he was ready to still keep the night going a little bit. So I mean, I was really counting on that happening. And then I said, and the biggest surprise was when we organized the comedy club. I said, "Casey, you want to come?" And he goes, "No, I'm not really much for comedy clubs." One of the funniest people I know doesn't like comedy clubs. And I was stunned how many people in our group had never been to a comedy club either. So so I guess maybe it will be my job next year as social coordinator to try to get more outings established, because I think it brings camaraderie, it brings people closer together.
Yeah.
And so if that has to be my role, I'll extend that. I'll expand my duties.
I got to give Wheels credit too. He and I are both on the same page. We love comedy. We love going to comedy shows. So those are the 2 times we really got the biggest group of people together on the road, is when we went and saw comics, and we always had the best time. So thank you to you for always helping put those together.
And one of them was Brooke's suggestion, the second one that we went. And so it was. I mean, how do you walk away from even a bad comedy night is like a bad pizza, still pretty good.
So
I bring a pizza, you bring a fruit.
Yeah. So let me put this fruit thing to bed.
Okay.
Right. So necessity is the mother of invention. I was losing in big fashion in pick to click. It was clear that the gap had gotten insurmountable.
Yes.
Right. And so I went to Jamba Juice to get a drink with the coupon from the game, because I needed to feel better and I wanted to turn the corner and pick the click. This is what happened. And so I'm sitting in Jamba Juice, and I got the peanut butter and banana mocha deal right, and I'm sitting there like, I don't want to lose, pick the click. I really don't want to lose. And I looked on the wall and it said, "The fruit is at the end of the branch."
Oh my goodness.
Right? And I was like, that's it. And so anyway, I brought that to the broadcast and it took on a life. But anyway, so much.
It did.
When did you start your partnership with Jamba Juice?
Yeah, well, they're
just right now?
I feel like I have one.
Yeah, he's making a strong pitch. He's making a real strong pitch. So we see both of you guys, as I said, do such tremendous work during the broadcast, and there's so much that goes into that. From your perspective, what are some of the more challenging things about your job that you feel you have to be really dialed in to do? Maybe things that people don't realize that, wow, this is a really difficult part of the job, and this is what allows you to do it at this high level that you can do it at.
Well, I think I mentioned it for me. I mean, when the team's not playing well. I mean, that's and there's sometimes where if it's been a really tough game, I've often said at the end of the broadcast, if you're still with us, and you were with us at the start of the night and still with us now, and you've been with us all the way through, consider yourself a true fan. And there's a few people who tweeted me afterwards, "Oh yeah, I was there all the way." They wanted to make sure they were acknowledged as a true fan. And so, because there have been some games over the years where if I could have left, I would have done it. But I still have to stay there and then go through it. So that's. I mean, everybody loves the game that's close and tense from start to finish. Those games take care of themselves, and you just hope that you describe it the right way, and if something big happens, that you're on it and call it the way you want to. But that's the biggest challenge for me, and I think Ralph Lawler, the Clippers announcer, and of course they were bad for a lot of years. I asked him one time, how did you get through the years where horrible teams, bad players, guys weren't good guys off the court too? And he said, I tell myself that I might see something. I'm broadcasting the best sport in the world. I might see something on a given night that I've never seen before and may never see again, and that gets me through. And I thought, wow, that's a great way of looking at things. I hope I never have to go through that, but I'm glad that's the way to look at it. And the year we won 21 games, I remembered that, and it actually helped me through. I mean, I didn't have an anticipation the Blazers were going to win necessarily, but that kind of told me, all right, you can still get something out of this game. So I try to harken back to those situations, but then I get jealous of the guys that call winning teams all the time, because their jobs are always easier. So that's my biggest challenge anyway. And so it has been for 19 years. It'll probably be a challenge till the day I do my last game.
But Wills, I like to think that there's more value in your explanation and perspective when the team is struggling or losing than when the team is playing well.
And I try to see, because I'm a hybrid of influences. I mean, growing up in Los Angeles, the broadcasters were all objective. That there was no we, us, or them. Moving to Chicago as a teenager, homers, we, us, or them. So I don't say we, us, or them, but I think everybody can kind of tell I want the Blazers to win. So I think you have to be honest about when things aren't going well, but at the same time, you have to understand. A friend of mine did the 76ers when they were bad, and Harold Katz was the owner. He came in one day and he said to my friend's boss, he said, "You better tell that radio guy to stop saying the score." Now, we got beat by 30 points last night, and I kept hearing him give the score. Well, the number one priority for any play-by-play guy is to say the score and the time all the time. And he was basically being told by the owner, if we're getting killed, don't say that score. I mean, so that's a pretty tough challenge, I mean, for any announcer to keep an owner happy under those circumstances. So again, I think, fortunately, we've had great freedom to be able to, do the responsibilities as we see them. But I think, yeah, it's challenging in those situations. But when the team's doing well, we're all in Disneyland. That's for sure.
Wonderful stuff. Well, right before we wrap up, real quick, Brooke, what are you most excited for next season? Now that you've had a chance to really experience this whole season and team for one full set of 82 games.
Well, just this last part of the season, of course, when Yusuf Nurkic arrived, it was just reinvigorating, if you will. Is that a word, Will?
Yes, it is.
Okay, reinvigorating to this team, and you could just kind of get that sense that there's some excitement in the air, and so that was the most fun for me. And one of the highlights of my year was that post-game interview with Yusuf Nurkic after he beat his former team, and so next year I just can't wait to see this group back, healthy, ready to go.
Well, thank you guys so much, Brooke Olsen, Dan, Brian Wheeler. Big thank you to our entire crew.